Jack barely gave it any thought, as he let loose with a 3-round burst with his plasma rifle, ripping through one of the closest clowns' center mass, as Nika put another one down before they even knew what happened. Jack snapped his sights to another clown that was only beginning to think about taking cover. Another safe burst at the center of mass brought him low too. There were only a few clowns left by now that were now panicking and dashing for cover. One was cut down by a hail of rapid-fire plasma rounds that could only have been Sephi, while another was disemboweled by a spear, the tip being telekinetically lifted off the ground while the clown wasn't looking. The last of the Zorn, on realizing there were others, began to charge towards where they thought they were hiding, before stumbling and fumbling over the plants that had somehow came to life, grabbing at their ankles and rooting them into place, before being cut down by Jack and Nika, thanking Allura as they did for her obvious handiwork. The clowns didn't know how to react, trying to dip and duck behind whatever cover they could find. Jack noticed movement behind what looked like a hastily crafted wooden fortification, which he sent several rounds towards, blasting the cover and the 2 clowns hiding behind it. Others that were hiding closer to the others behind a set of fallen logs were suddenly lifted up by Chio, helpless to do anything as they were cut down by Sephi's rapid fire. The last 3 clowns hunkered down as best they could, but stood no chance to another of Allura's fireballs. And just like that, the fight was over. Jack exhaled the breath he hadn't known he'd been holding. "Nice job," Nika patted him on the back after exhaling herself. "That could have gone smoother. I was wondering if you were going to freeze or not, but I'm glad you didn't. Saves me making the whole speech on why we need to kill the bad guys. How do you feel?" "It's weird," Jack admitted. "Everything about human pop culture demands I feel like shit, or remorseful, or somehow terrible." "But," Nika prompted. "Honestly, in a way it felt good," Jack admitted. "Obviously there was danger, and maybe it's just the adrenaline talking, but I didn't hesitate to put the clowns down after seeing the kind of depraved shit they did on TV. As for the Zorn, you and Chio told me enough. This place is better without them." "Agreed," Nika smiled, giving Jack another pat of assurance. "Naturally produced adrenaline is rare among species, but Sephi and I both can as well. It's right to feel a little weird after your first kill, but it gets easier over time. Come on, let's find the others." "Sure," Jack replied simply as he followed after her, deciding not to correct Nika on her last point. He had been forced to kill before, after all. "That was awesome," Sephi cried out as they approached. "We totally kicked their asses." Chio just stared at Jack with a worried expression, before Nika gave her a reassuring head pat. "He's good, Chio, don't worry. He probably took down more than me." "Yeah, it's fine," Jack added, on seeing Allura's look of concern. "After seeing the killer clowns attack, I wasn't going to hold back. But what were they doing here? Weren't the clowns meant to be heading east?" "They were," Allura replied thoughtfully. "We should investigate while we scan the bounties and loot anything of value. Best we don't let the Zorn get their hands on modern weapons at least." "These dumbasses probably got lost from the main group since there aren't any clown corporals," Sephi reasoned. "But you totally had me sold on looting their shit. We can pawn it off for the next town." "You sure it's not going to be too heavy for you, Sephi?" Nika teased the scritter. "Nah," Sephi grinned. "I'll bet the burden if it means we get a nice meal in the next town. Or maybe we can save for a hot tub in the house. Yes! Allura, hot tub! Or a swimming pool. Can we?" "Let's see what we find here first," Allura giggled, heading towards the bodies, but was stopped by Jack holding out a warning hand. "What's wrong, Jack?" "Could any of the bodies be playing possum?" Jack carefully asked. "What's a possum?" Sephi replied in confusion. "I mean, could any of the bodies just be pretending to be dead to try and catch us off guard?" Jack confirmed, looking to Chio to check. Expanding her mind, her eyes went wide, and she quickly lifted several spears off the ground to skewer one of the clowns leaning against a tree stump. "Good call, Jack. He was probably going to bleed out anyway, but it's better to be sure," the Alethi messaged him. "How did you know?" "Just a feeling," Jack sighed, as Chio gave the all-clear to the others to start picking through the bodies. Sifting through the bodies was a little grim in Jack's mind, but it was made easier when it was apparent that the clowns had barely anything apart from the laser weapons they were carrying, much to the disappointment of Sephi. The collapsed polka dot canvas on the ground had likely been a tent of some kind, a theory that was backed by the fact that there were several dirty bedrolls underneath. A quick game of the alien equivalent of rock, paper, scissors broke out to determine who would have to rummage through them, with Allura being the unlucky loser, until Jack raised the idea of Chio telekinetically shaking the bedrolls for any valuables. Most of it was junk, with a few credit chips that Sephi quickly scooped up, until Jack spotted a few papers on the floor. "Guys, look at this for a sec," he distractedly called out as he looked through them. It was crudely drawn in crayon and probably coded, but I think this looks like a map with directions. "I agree," Allura stated, as she had a hard time trying to make anything of it. "It's not to scale, and I only recognize a few landmarks, but it does look like planned troop movements. We've definitely got to get these to one of the groups hunting them down as soon as we can." We could get a good price for it too, Sephi added. Good find, Jack. We should not hold out on the information to try and get a better deal, Tshirt warned. There will be a reward, but holding out and jeopardizing the manhunt will get bounties on all of us. There was no argument there. Jack could see even Sephi nodding in agreement, though the scritter quickly added, It's going to be a good reward, right? I'm sure it will be, Allura smiled, playfully giving her a shove. Though we need to make it to town first and hope nobody else beats us to it. You're right, Sephi agreed in shock. We picked this camp clean, let's go already. The next few hours were less tense for Jack after their relatively easy victory, though he was keen on getting to the relative safety of the town of Glazespring, where they would be in comm range for Allura to register their kills and sell the information. They ate their lunch at some old ruins that surprisingly didn't see much traffic. Though Jack would have expected a primitive group of Zorn to use the place as a home, Allura pointed out a way shrine to Sora, goddess of stars, which likely repelled the evil and low-witted Zorn away. The group had made sure to pack as light as they could, so the food for lunch was just some plain, dense, bready substance, which didn't taste of anything in particular, though the others had packed some sauces which at least made it palpable. They didn't spend too long there, as they were still in the middle of dangerous territory, but even still, Jack helped Allura clear the small shrine of mud with a bit of cloth and some water to clean it up, and left a small offering of a few sweets out of gratitude and respect, which was another odd tradition Jack decided not to question too much. Several more hours went by without incident, time moving to mid-afternoon as the group made it to a district entrance that was lightly guarded by a few militia from Glazespring, who were apparently just there to hold the choke point in light of the recent problems with monsters. It was still about an hour and a half until they would reach the town proper. On learning that this was the edge of the town's comm cover, Allura immediately set about alerting people she knew at the Temple of Hope about the map they had recovered, as the group took a rest, idly chatting with the militia, who were glad for something to alleviate their boredom, though they didn't unfortunately know much about the area they were heading to past the town. After resting up and thanking them, the group set off on the final stretch of the town where they could relax for a few hours, before heading off to the abandoned subway to the north. Jack was amazed as the forest finally thinned out, and they could see their immediate destination. Glazespring reminded Jack of a medieval castle town, being situated on and around a respectable hill, with defence obviously in mind. As they got closer, he could see guards patrolling the top of the district walls, overlooking the farms outside and the bustle within. The militia had told him the spring within Glazespring came from a grove right at the top of the hill with a lake of clear water that streamed down the side as the source of a river, which had long been diverted into a dug moat surrounding the town. About time, Sephi sighed on finally making it to civilization again. I really need to pee. Couldn't you have just done it in the bushes earlier? Nika gave a snort of laughter. Not after the last time I tried doing it outside. Stupid gust of wind came out of nowhere. It was horrible. Sure it wasn't Tshirt that did that? Nika countered, giving a wink at the unamused Alithy. Ew. After a quick questioning by the gate guards about where they came from and what their business was, they were allowed in and warned not to cause trouble. Though all of them were itching to sit down in a cafe or restaurant, Sephi was insistent that they unloaded the clown weapons and other loot first, at the closest pawn shop, right after an emergency bathroom break. The credits they got for that had clearly not been what Sephi had wanted, despite Allura's best negotiating skills, but the group had come into some decent bit of cash, and were suitably cheered up when Allura casually suggested they eat a fancy meal at a good restaurant Luvia had told her about. Sitting outside on very comfortable chairs was absolute bliss, and when the cool, fruity cocktails they had ordered came just a few minutes later by a well-dressed reptilian, they felt even better. Nika had insisted that they didn't drink any alcohol, which was fine with them, considering how nice the cocktails were. The food was even better. The shared platters of tender meats that completely fell apart at the bone, and flavourful roasted vegetables being more than enough to satisfy their grumbling bellies. Allura did warn them that the communications to register the bounties and contact the Temple of Hope would take a little while to go through, which gave the group the excuse to keep ordering more food and drinks. It was just over an hour before the confirmation came that the bounties were registered, and that the Temple of Hope had received their message, though they wanted to confirm the validity of the intel before rewarding the group later, which Allura agreed to. About time, Nika rolled her eyes as Allura relayed the news. This is nice and all, but we weren't planning to stick around too long. Agreed, Allura replied. One last round? Sephi questioned. Yes, please, Chu agreed with a smile, as she quickly downed her sugary green drink. We can come here on the way back, Allura replied. We spent too long here anyway. But before Tshirt could type up a reply, something suddenly began to chirp around them with a soft, quiet beep. Everyone else stopped to look around with their guard up, until Seffi raised a hand to get them to chill out, quickly letting her know that she'd just received a notification on her master comlink that someone was trying to contact Jack, who quickly took out his ringing device, completely surprised that anyone would try to contact him. "I bet it's Vanya," Nika giggled. "Probably trying to sext you or something." "No," Seffi interrupted, with a serious look to Jack. "It's not a comm code I recognize. Up to you if you want to take it, Jack. I can secure the line and block out ambient sounds." Jack nodded, waiting for Seffi to confirm before he accepted the call. He spent a few moments trying to remember how to answer it before Chio helpfully showed him, and decided to try and be sneaky. "Hello, you have reached the number of, Steve. He cannot pick up the phone right now. Please leave your message after the beep." Beep. "Jack, I know it's you on the comm. This is Krill. Thank the gods you're right." The panicked voice of their avian classmate could be heard over the otherwise relaxed sounds of nature around them. "Oh, hey Krill," Jack replied worriedly, unsure what was going on. "Are you okay? What's happening?" "I should be asking you that." Jack could see Krill nervously rubbing his hands in the video feed, where he could also see a few of the other guys in the background. Jack recognizing Critch and Kizarif in the background, with a few others looking into the call. "I don't know where the information came from, but our group just received an anonymous data package telling us where you've headed. Says you've gone north and are probably heading slightly westward." "Krill, it's Seffi," the scritter interrupted, trying to keep the worry out of her voice. "Can you transfer what you've got over to us?" "Of course. Transferring now." What little there was made Jack's blood run cold. It was a series of pictures, from what must have been random cameras on the street, to random pictures taken by other patrons at the tea garden, to the selfie he had taken with a young koi fish along with a predicted route. It fortunately didn't say where they were heading, but it was close enough to where they were now. "Shit," Nika groaned. "No more drinks. We've got to move now." "Be careful, Jack," Val warned, as he popped up next to Krill in the video feed. "There's talk among Red Legion affiliates trying to form a large group to come after you, and I can only imagine the bounty hunters aren't too far behind. We'll run interference if we can, but if the data's right, I change course or get out of there." "Thanks, Krill. We'll do that." Jack nodded in gratitude. "I owe you guys big time." "Well, that's not the only thing," Kizarif spoke up from the side, the insectoid grinning into the camera. "Apparently both the Crips and the Bloods are making competing diss tracks on you. You've got to hear them. Guys, we've got trouble," Seffi called out, as she was the first to get out of her seat, having spotted an incoming threat.
"You foul demon! My techniques of Matarasu Kal San will smash you back to the foul Gehenna you came from! Hiya! Hooya!"
"Ah, crap," Jack muttered, not acknowledging the voice, which sounded a little too far off to be an immediate problem. "Sorry guys, gotta run." "Understood," Jack heard Val's voice in the background. "Do what you need to do to stay safe. Bye for now." "Bye," Jack quickly replied before hanging up.
"You!"
Jack heard, as he spun his head around to face a ridiculous sight. Dressed from head to toe in what he could barely describe as a set of martial arts robes, with several different coloured belts and symbols, was a morbidly obese slug-like creature with an odd number of short, spindly legs. More specifically, Jack recognized him as Zalhan the Magic Man, one of the bounty hunters that publicly announced their intention to kill him. It was clear he had been running to them, eventually slowing to a slow jog before completely stopping about 20 meters away from him, doubling over in exhaustion.
"Stop!"
the Magic Man panted.
"I've finally found you, villain. My ultimate techniques will destroy you. Just let me catch my breath first."
Jack knew he should probably spur the others into action and just outrun this guy, who clearly couldn't keep up with them. But several things stopped him. The threat clearly wasn't that bad, they hadn't finished their drinks. But the main reason was that there was a huge crowd gathering around them, watching intently, with several getting their devices out. No way Jack was going to run away on camera. "We got you guys on camera! You're going on NetTube!" one young-looking amphibian creature called out, as his friends visibly danced and made dramatic motions in the camera to hype it up for the crowd. Jack sighed, sliding his bag off his back and walking up a little closer to the guy, out of range of any takedown attempts. He didn't see any visible weapons on the guy, but that didn't mean he didn't have any. He had seen illusion effects before, after all. "Look, mate," Jack started, really not sure how to even approach this mess. "Congrats, you found us and all that, but we're not in the mood right now."
"Outsider, you expect a true master to retreat from his quarry?"
"Well," Jack started to reply. The nice guards at the gate asked us not to cause any trouble and...
A true master has zero concerns for mere mortals. If they dare interrupt me, they will experience my ultimate techniques.
The master replied. Didn't you get your ass kicked multiple times on video? Nika called out as she tried to control her laughter enough to talk. Including by my master, Sensei Raphael?
Be quiet, little girl,
the magic man replied.
This is of no concern to a novice child like you.
Uh-oh. That's it, Nika growled in rage as he walked up to Jack. The other girl was having more than enough sense not to try and stop her. Jack, I admire your patience with this moron, but peace was never an option. Alright, Jack sighed, as he shook his muscles and got into a combat stance, though Nika stopped him with a tail patch at the shoulder. You're not even getting the privilege of fighting, Jack, Nika raged. You're dumb making a mockery of martial arts. I'll make sure of it. Nika? Jack asked, momentarily put off by the glare she gave him from interrupting. He knew why, but he had no intention of patronizing her. Hey, don't look at me like that. I was going to say it's my responsibility. I'm the one he's after. Nika calmed down enough to give him a grin, having realized where Jack was coming from. It's my responsibility to see this guy humiliated, she reasoned. Besides, you've already fended off an attempt today. Not sure that counts, Jack snorted, remembering the koi fish father and son they met earlier that day. Alright, this guy means much more to you than me anyway. He stepped back to give Nika the space.
You wish to fight me, little girl?
The magic man laughed, turning to one of the groups in the crowd carrying cameras, who were also wearing robes similar to the magic man.
Take notes, my students.
Oh, I'm not going to fight you, Nika growled. I'm going to kick your ass. Fight! Someone yelled out in the crowd, and just like that, it was on. The magic man immediately started spinning his arms around in a circle, like some kind of warm-up exercise, growling in a noise that sounded like he was imitating a helicopter. The crowd roared with laughter at the ridiculous display, as Nika calmly stood still, observing the pattern, and waiting for the magic man to get closer. When he advanced barely a few meters away, Nika made her move, using her tail to wrap around one of the right legs as she leapt left, using her tail to pull her back in for a devastating double kick to the side of the magic man's head, to loud gasps from the crowd, and noises of unbridled excitement from those recording and streaming for the masses, excluding the magic man's students who just stood there in horror. Nika had no intention of letting up though, as with a quick movement she grabbed the man's head with her hands and yanked down, using the bulky man's momentum to bowl into the small group of his students, knocking most of them to the ground to more bouts of laughter from the crowd. Still not letting go, Nika relished in the attention the crowd gave her, as the magic man tried in vain to grab her and beg for mercy, made all the more humiliating for the guy by her showboating, making expressions and funny faces to the crowd, before Nika got bored and changed her position, easily grabbing one of Zal Han's flailing arms and twisting it behind his back in a painful Kimura-esque lock, while wrapping her tail around his neck. Seeing that their master was getting wrecked, one of the students foolishly tried to rush in and help him. He had barely taken 3 steps before the alert Jack had closed the distance, completely clotheslining him before keeping a stern watch over the others, who wisely stayed put. Knowing now that she was clear, Nika started to increase the pressure to loud cries of pain for the false sensei. Now, she said, coldly and calmly, tell us, are those videos you post real, or are your students putting on an act?
It's already— No!
I tell them what to do! Zalhan yelled, as Nika cranked up the pressure. And what about your animatritsu Kalsal? Nika asked. Is it real?
No!
The magic man yelled out. I copied some other styles I saw on TV! And finally, Nika yelled out for dramatic effect, looking at the camera. Have you been defrauding all your financial backers and your students by doing this? It took a good few seconds of Nika putting pressure on the arm to get the answer she wanted. Yes! Yes! I got fired from my marketing job and really needed the money, he yelled out. And Nika finally released the grip in disgust, before walking right to the nearest camera. You heard it here, everybody, Nika grinned, as she brought up a visual display to show to the camera. Zalhan the Magic Man is a fake. If you're interested in martial arts, we have a good network here to get you started. Check out these sites and our members can direct you to a sensei appropriate for your species. Watch out, Jack yelled, as he saw Zalhan get up and make a mad dash to Nika while her back was turned. Jack dashed to intercept him, but Nika was faster, dodging to the right and letting loose with a powerful left kick that cracked against Zalhan's ribs, bringing him to the ground in a writhing heap of pain. Jack had heard about the devastating debilitation of a liver shot on humans, but to see it happen in front of him to an alien being was quite something. Zalhan the Magic Man was just done. The devastating hit left him unable to think of or do anything else other than focus on the pain, and the sheer number of cameras documenting his epic failure. Nice job, Jack grinned, as Nika slipped back next to him as they made their way back to the table. But we probably need to leave as quickly as we can. Yeah, Nika sobered up, realizing the implications of her little stunt. We'll need to buy some more snacks and refill our hydro flasks at the general store, but we'll make it a flying visit. The two of them received a round of applause at their table from the rest of the grinning party, and it took Jack and Nika a few moments to realize why. So you mean to tell me, Nika started in an unamused tone, that instead of staying alert in case something bad happened, you ordered yourselves another round of drinks? Yep, Sephi grinned without any hint of remorse. You look like you had it well in hand. I agree with Sephi. We didn't want to distract from your display, Chio smiled. And since we had the time, we figured we could get one last round in. You could have at least ordered us some, Jack replied, with a snort of laughter, before Alora revealed two brightly coloured paper cups with straws she had been hiding behind her back. Way ahead of you, she smiled warmly. Now let's get out of here.